Why in hell can Sukuna use flames? In this video, I'm going to be going over a couple of theory-crafted reasons as to why Sukuna could possibly be able to use flames. I scoured the web for all the best theory-crafted reasons as to why Sukuna can use flames, and here they are right now. One of the first reasons that caught my eye is that people are saying that he is a god of war or a god of death. And we can see this very symbolized in Sukuna's domain expansion, where in Malevolent Shrine, where he has a bunch of cow skulls and just skulls of random persons or curses or animals laying at his feet during domain expansion. And also when Yuji goes into his, I guess, his little perception in his own body, where he can actually talk to Sukuna, like a huge rib covering in Sukuna's little domain, and there's just bones everywhere, and it just kind of represents the underworld. And so we're thinking that he's basically a symbol or a representation, a god of death or war. And as we know, they all call him the king of curses. So maybe that does help us a little bit make that distinction between the god of death and war and the king of curses. But then we also see him depicted with weapons. As we've seen in the manga, he's been using weapons. As we've seen in his original forms, that he has weapons. And then he also has the slicing technique, which is, through war, almost everybody was killed with swords, daggers, knives. Slicing was a big part of causing death and wars. Also poison. All the skulls on the main expansion can represent that the plague or some sort of sickness going through. And then fire as well. Fire can cause death. Think in the medieval ages, and where the ages where Sukuna was considered a threat, a lot of people died by fire. You had fire arrows, people raiding, all of these things that can cause death. And then they're also saying that his poses in domain expansion also resemble a couple of gods and legendary depictions. Sukuna closely resembles Ashura. If you look at some of the pictures that I'll have up on the screen, they closely resemble each other in certain poses and significant ideology. And then also Sukuna also resembles the Death, the Grim Reaper. He has like the skull that he carries around, and the way that Sukuna sits sometimes looks like the Grim Reaper. He's trying to use him as like a god of war or a god of destruction type of character that can basically use all the techniques that can be used to kill somebody, so he can use that. But there is another one though. It's a simple one. It's just multiple innate techniques. As we know, Gojo has the 6 eyes, and then he also has unlimited curse energy, and he can use curse technique red, curse technique blue, and curse technique purple. These are 2 innate techniques that are just completely different from each other. One can allow him to use the invincibility of space, and then the other can allow him to use the destructiveness of space. And so that's what we're kind of saying with Sukuna as well. They're through crafting that Sukuna can use cleave, but he can also use another technique, since Gojo and Sukuna are basically the pinnacle of sorcerers in Jujutsu Kaisen. They're so good at Jujutsu sorcery that they're allowed to have other techniques, because they can actually handle that without their brain exploding, because they're so gifted and talented at sorcery. The third reason is maybe Sukuna is a curse. Or I wouldn't say a curse, because we all know he was a person before it became known as the king of curses. So maybe during that time, he became known as a natural calamity. And throughout that time, his fear and his terror that he stroked into the people that lived during his era basically allowed people to worship him and fear him as a natural calamity, which, as we know, all the special great curses come from some fear of something. Like Hanami was the fear of nature, uncontrollable nature. Joko was the fear of volcanoes. Sukuna might just be the natural fear of natural disasters. Maybe he can use flames because he is seen as a natural disaster, and the curses basically have the techniques from fear or the terror of something that humans fear. So maybe that's why Sukuna could use flames, because he's considered a natural calamity, and he's just so strong and powerful that he basically made legends about himself that still exist to that day, and people still fear him. As we can see in the Jujutsu sorcery world, people still fear Sukuna. That's why they wanted to kill Yuji. And then the fourth one, I think this is probably the most accurate theory-crafted explanation as to why he could use flames. I think that he can eat people, and then the reason why he eats people is so he can use their curse technique. As we know, Urame, the ice sorcerer that we see in the manga, this is going to be a little bit spoilers, so if you guys haven't read the manga, don't watch this upcoming part. But I would say Urame, the ice sorcerer that Sukuna tags along with, is kind of like his best friend. And the reason why he has Urame hang around with him is because she can freeze her sorcery, it can freeze things and store things. So he basically uses Urame as a freezer, basically go around collecting curses and freezing them for him so he can cook them and eat them in the future. And I would say a good example of this is when Sukuna took over Megami's body and he went to do that ritual for about 3 days where he would bathe in all the curses and try to absorb all the cursed energy into his vessel so he could have control power of Megami's body, which allowed him to use the 10 shadows technique. Maybe that's how Sukuna is able to use other people's curse technique, is because he eats them. And maybe Sukuna really didn't eat Megami, but it does kind of feel that way when he's talking about bathing in curses and then he had 3 days to get used to Megami's body. It kind of does sound like he ate them because that's what he usually does, and that's why, and as with the fight with Kashimo, he does like the taste of humans and that he wants to keep on indulging in that pleasure of his. And so maybe that's why he can use other curse techniques, because he can eat other sorcerers. Probably one of the most accurate theory crafted reasons as to why he can use flames and other curse techniques. And then the last one is he can use the curse techniques of his vessels. Basically the people that he possesses, he can use those curse techniques. So the theory craft of this one is basically saying that the fire curse technique that he used against Jogo and Maaraga is basically the curse technique of Itadori. Because if he can use Cleave and Dismantle, though that's Sukuna's technique, then the fire technique could basically be the curse technique of Itadori. I don't think this one is very likely, because I think Itadori has some type of like soul transmission or soul alteration going on with him. It kind of does make sense when you look at Megami's side, because after Sukuna possessed Megami, he was able to use the 10 shadows technique against Gojo to basically defeat him at that point. But it's very muddy waters with this one. I don't think Itadori's curse technique is fire. I think it's like soul transmutation or soul transfiguration. But we have yet to see that, and we really don't know. But yeah, that's really about all the theory crafted explanations as to why Sukuna can use flames. In the comment section below, leave me your guys' reasons as to why Sukuna can use flames. Why do you think he can use them? Where did he get them? And I'm really interested in this, and I want to see all the reasons as to what you guys have. Give a like if you guys liked it, and subscribe to the channel if you guys want more videos like this, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Go.